Hi friends, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about linear equations that are in disguise. So they don't look like linear equations, but you can still solve them, just like you would a linear equation or a normal equation, regular equation, I should say. Okay, so if you haven't already, grab your notebook, write these problems down, and these are what we're going to go over. Okay, for example number 1 here, the first things first, before we do anything, I see that that's a fraction on the left-hand side, 10 over 6. Now, the rule for dividing things by 2 is if they're both even numbers. 10 and 6 both are. So let's go ahead and just simplify that fraction straight off the bat by dividing by 2. Remember, dividing by 2 is just cutting in half. So 5 and 3. Okay, so now if you don't have to rewrite it, but I just want you to be able to see, 5 over 3 equals n minus 5 over n plus 7. I love when problems are fraction equals fraction, because in that case, what you can do is cross multiply. Always protect your addition subtraction in fractions with parentheses so you don't accidentally cancel something out. So I've protected it with with parentheses. I've protected the addition and subtraction in my fraction with parentheses. Now I'm going to cross multiply. This times this, so 5 times n plus 7, quantity n plus 7, or meaning parentheses, equals 3 times quantity n minus 5. This times this. That's cross multiplying. Okay, now at this point it looks a little bit easier to manage. So let's go ahead and do some distribution. 5n plus 35, as I'm multiplying 5 times n, 5 times 7, equals 3n minus 15. Again, distributing to the n to the 5. All right, now when you have variables on both sides, if you haven't heard me say this before, you are going to want to deal with your variables first. You're not wrong if you want to minus 35 from both sides, but it is much more helpful if you deal with your variables first, especially when your answer is 0. You'll be less confused. So we're going to minus 3n. To move that whole chunk over under this 5n, we've got a minus because we're going to the other side of the equal sign. So minus 3n from both sides, that cancels it out over here. And 5 minus 3 here is going to be 2n plus 35 equals, and don't forget this negative sign, minus 15. All right, again, we want to get the chunk with the variable by itself, so we need to move that guy to the other side. Now we're going to minus 35. All right, these guys cancel out here, and I have 2n equals negative plus a negative. When I'm drawing the line, it's always that I'm adding. A negative and a negative here, it's still going to be a negative, and that team now is, we're going to add those together because they're the same sign. So 0, carry the 1, we end up with 3, 4, 5. All right, so negative 50. Divide both sides by 2, and we get negative 25. N equals, cancel those guys out, negative 25. Excellent. All right, we're going to apply that same rule over here as well. So taking a look at this guy, there's nothing that I can reduce here. So what I'm going to do is protect my addition subtraction with parentheses, and that also helps me remind me to distribute. I'm going to do 3 times all that garbage here. So 3 times 5x plus 10 equals 5 times all that garbage here, x plus 9. You could do x plus 9 times 5, but if you do that, it looks kind of weird to do distribution. So I always put my loose numbers in front, and then I do anything that has a parenthesis around it. All right, so 3 times 5 gives me 15x here, plus 30 equals 5x, distributing here, plus 45. Again, deal with your variables first. Minus 5x, that's going to give us 10x plus 30 equals 45. Okay, so I still want to get that variable, that chunk of the variables by itself. So I'm going to minus 30 from both sides. And that is going to give me 10x equals 15. Okay, so now to get x by itself, we're going to divide by 10. Now in this case, this does not evenly divide. We have 15 over 10, right? So let me rewrite that. X equals 15 over 10. Now I can reduce this by dividing the top and bottom by 5, because remember, things that are divisible by 5 end in a 5 or a 0. So that gives me 3 over 2. So x equals 3 over 2. This brings up a good point. Typically, you want your answers to, it's a good rule of thumb to have your answers be in fraction form. The only time you don't is when the problem starts as a decimal, then you can convert it to a decimal, that's fine. or if it's a word problem and decimal form makes more sense than having it as fraction form. So like way back up here, 15 divided by 10, oh yeah, that's 1.5 because I just moved this, move the decimal over one spot. Don't answer with 1.5. You should typically answer with a fraction unless your teacher tells you otherwise. All right, friends, thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.